Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And we are going to jump in with our town hall meeting on questions and answers. If you've joined us in the past, we had a lot of questions come in the past that we weren't able to get to. So we've taken a lot of those questions and put them on slides, and we're going to go through them all today. We'll try not to go too fast. But we will also be opening it up for questions after we've gone through the slides. So if you don't get your answers based on what we've already have loaded up, we'll be able to address those hopefully after our presentation and by the end of this meeting. We will be posting this online. And so if you will be able to go back and rewatch this, we're scheduled for 2 hours today. And so hopefully we'll get a lot of your questions answered today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump right into our Q&A. All right, so these are some of the most frequently asked questions that we have. I have with me on here our Deputy Executive Officer, Carrie Harris. Her and I are going to jump back and forth. And by the way, I'm Christy Underwood, the Executive Officer of the board. So Carrie and I will go back and forth with answering these questions, and then we will work our way through it. Okay, so let's get started. So frequently asked questions. Can estheticians do microneedling, microchanneling, or body contouring? The answer is no. There is a section of regulation that does not allow any type of needle to be used or piercing of the skin. So you cannot pierce the skin, no matter the level of needle, no matter the level of piercing. It says you cannot pierce the skin. So with that, we also have been advised that body contouring is the practice of medicine. So anytime you are offering weight loss, fat reduction, a reduction of cells, any cooling of the cells to make someone look slimmer or change the contour of their body, that is going beyond the scope of what you are licensed by us to do. Next question is, how can I open a salon? You need to apply for an establishment license. You can do that online through breeze.ca.gov. And you need to apply, fill out the application, pay the $50 fee. We are running about 8 weeks for establishment licenses right now. So we recommend you get those applications in as quickly as possible so that we have time to process that before you open your salon. There are other things that you'll need to do. We recommend you contact your local city and county to make sure that you're in compliance with them. Just clearing my screen. How can I become an inspector or a board member? So to become an inspector, you have to take a state exam, and you will need to, sorry about that, I'm getting a lot of messages. You will need to take that examination. If you qualify for the examination, we post that information on our website when positions are available. We're almost always recruiting for inspectors. It is a civil servant position, so you do have to go through the California Human Resources Department. You have to fill out an application and qualify and take an examination and be placed on a list. And once that has happened, you can apply for one of our vacant positions. For board members, our board members are mostly governor appointed. We do have one Senate appointee and one Assembly appointee. The governor will appoint members, and you can go to the governor's website. There's a tab for appointments, and that is where you would go to apply to become a board member. And we also have a link on our website for that. How should you store clippers? So clippers right now, the requirement is that anything clean. So once they've been clean, you have to store them in a clean place. Now, it's not specific of where that clean place is. It can be hanging, as long as it's clean and the space around it is clean. So if you hang your clippers on a dirty wall and the clippers are dirty, that's not okay. They have to be clean and they have to be stored in a clean place. If they are dirty, they then need to be put in a labeled container. That container can be a drawer, it can be a plastic tub, whatever closed container you can put your clippers in, and make sure it's labeled dirty. Can estheticians provide microblading? Microblading is not regulated by our board, so that would be with your local county or city health department. We recommend, if you're going to do a microblading treatment, that you put your esthetician license down so that a consumer does not think that you're performing that service as an esthetician. And we recommend that you keep all tools separate, separately labeled. It just makes everything better if everything you have is separate and is labeled correctly. All right, going to the next slide, and I'll turn it over to Carrie.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, can an inspector inspect a station if you are with a client? Yes, an inspector can inspect your station while you're with your client. They should be as less intrusive as possible. And they may ask you for your ID so they can verify that the person providing the service is the person that has the license posted. Does a drawer need to be labeled? Drawers do not have to be labeled, but if there are containers inside the drawer that have clean or soiled tools in them, then those containers must be labeled as to the contents, whether those are clean tools or dirty tools or soiled tools. Does a container need to be labeled if it's inside a drawer? No, not if the drawer is labeled. If the drawer is labeled clean and everything inside the drawer is clean, then you are in compliance. What needs to be displayed for an establishment license? For an establishment license, you need to have the message to the consumer, the human trafficking notice, the prevention of gender-based discrimination flyer, and then also the Department of Industrial Relations required workplace posting notice if you have employees. All of these notices can be found on our website on the forms and publications page under establishments/mobile units. Do you need a license to open an establishment or to be a receptionist? To open an establishment, you have to have an establishment license, but you do not have to have a personal license. So you do not have to be a barber or an esthetician or cosmetologist. You just need to have your establishment license, and the receptionist does not need to have a personal license either. Who can tint eyebrows? Estheticians and cosmetologists can tint eyebrows. However, they need to use products that are approved by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and those items include silver nitrate in their ingredients. And on our website, we have a industry bulletin that lays out exactly what the verbiage on those tinting products need to say. Okay, Kristen.
All right. Can estheticians dermaplane, and do you need to be certified? Yes, the law changed a year in 2022 that estheticians and cosmetologists can do dermaplaning. You don't have to have an extra certification to do that. If you're planning on adding this to your services, we do recommend you make sure you are properly trained on to do that service safely. How should we store capes? So right now, the law does not specify how to store a cape. It really only refers to smocks. So at this time, you know, if you're using a cape on more than one person and it is touching the skin, you need to make sure that that is only used on one person. But if you're not touching the skin, say you're putting a towel around the client's neck before you put the cape around, then you can reuse those. The whole idea is to keep the cape from touching the skin. And if it does touch the skin, then you want to only use that on one person at a time, because it could transfer some disease. If I work at 2 locations, can I copy my license? You can't photocopy your license because it's licenses are printed on security paper, so it'll come out with the words void on it if you try to copy it. The law requires you to take that with you to each location that you're working on and keep it posted. You can order a duplicate and post a duplicate license as well, especially if you're working frequently at 2 different locations. Can I use my bathroom for storage? The law states that a bathroom cannot be used for storage. It doesn't specify any types of storage. It just says it can't be used for storage. So you don't want to have anything in your bathroom. You don't want to have a mop and bucket in your bathroom. You don't want to have any type of chemical cleaning supplies in your bathroom. What we will accept is toiletries. So you can have extra toilet paper, and you can have paper towels, things like that in your bathroom, but you cannot have any chemicals in there that are being stored, and absolutely no types of products can go in there that are being stored. Do I need a license to braid? No, there is an exemption in our law that braiders do not have to be licensed. Keep in mind that as soon as you cross into the cosmetology field, then you do need to have a license. So if you're doing any shampooing, that is part of the scope of practice of a cosmetologist, and you would then need to be licensed to perform that. The exemption for braiding is just that. It is for actually just doing the braiding. What kind of disinfectant do I use? You want to use an EPA registered disinfectant. That should be on the label. It should be registered EPA. And I'm sorry, Carrie, is it EPA or FDA? I think I'm saying the wrong words.
No, you're correct. EPA.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yes.
And so you want to make sure that that label says fungicidal, virucidal, and bactericidal. It has to have those 3 words on the label. Can a client bring a service animal, and are we allowed to ask for verification? Our board has absolutely no regulations over any types of animals in salons, so we are unable to answer that question.
Okay. Next slide. Okay. If I purchase sanitizable files, can I reuse them? No. You cannot reuse sanitizable files because they're porous by their very nature. That's what gives them the grit to be able to do the job that they need to do. And you cannot disinfect amongst those pores. So no, you cannot reuse sanitizable files. How far in advance can I renew my license? You can renew your license 83 days in advance. We send out renewal notices about 83 days before your license is going to expire. And you can either go on Breeze at www.breeze.ca.gov to renew your license, or you can mail the coupon back that comes with your renewal notice. How do we store hot tools? The board does not have any laws or regulations regarding the storage of hot tools. They don't have to be labeled clean or dirty. They just need to be kept in a place that's clean. How do I get my hours if the school I attended is closed? So this is not within our jurisdiction, but the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education has a division called OSAR, and they can help you with getting your records from a closed school. They can be reached at osar@dca.ca.gov. So for any of your closed school questions, reach out to OSAR. Do I need liability insurance? The only license that requires liability insurance with the board is the personal service permit, and that's $1 million policy that you need to provide us proof for when you're applying for that license? What services can an extern provide? So externs can only provide services that are listed within the definition of cosmetology or barbering as provided in section 7316. And a licensee has to directly supervise the services that the extern is providing. And externs may not use or apply chemical treatments unless the extern has received appropriate training and application of those treatments from an approved school. And the extern may work on paying client only if an assisting capacity and only with the direct and immediate supervision of a licensee. Okay.
All right, before we open for people to ask questions on the phone, we are going to just run through the chat real quick. We have a lot of you have posted some questions. So we will just go ahead and answer those. So what are the rules and regulations for a home salon? Basically everything is going to apply to a home salon, including what was required for a non-home salon, for a regular traditional salon. That one of the differences is that they require a separate entrance. So the consumer has to not come through your front door. You have to have a separate entrance for your home salon. Let's see. Other than the exam for inspectors, is there a level of education required? I believe we are posting the link in the chat. There is some education required. There's a certain amount of units in criminal justice that is required to apply for the inspector position. I believe it's 12 units. I'm waiting for, yes, okay, 12 units is what is required for of a criminal justice for an inspector applicant at this time. Or evidently you can also substitute experience as well. And all that information is going to be explained a lot better than what we're doing here in the job postings that we will post for you. Please explain the legal difference between booth renters and independent contractors. Our board actually doesn't recognize either. So we don't have anything in our law that talks about booth renters, and we don't separate between independent contractors or booth renters. So for us, we can't explain that legal difference. We treat everybody just as a licensee or an establishment owner. If you're looking for more information on that, that's really going to get into the labor laws. And so you might want to consult a legal attorney for that to help make sure you're clear on how you operate. Is it legal to share a space as a manicurist with a hairstylist? It is. We have no laws and regulations on sharing spaces. There are certain requirements for disposing of certain items. For instance, if there's a hairstylist, you need to dispose of that hair in a closed trash can. So you need to just make sure that you're following the health and safety regulations. Some private companies are offering haircuts to their staff. Do they need an establishment license, and do they need to comply as a typical shop would? If they're charging a service to a consumer, whether it's an employee or not, if someone's paying for those services, then they would need to be licensed, and those services would need to be done in a licensed salon. Carrie, would you like to take over?
Sure. Can barber clippers post disinfected spray be on the barber station mat noted as clean? So I'm assuming you're saying that you have your barber clippers, you've already disinfected them with your spray, and now you're putting them on your mat and it's noted clean. If your mat is a clean space, yes, you can do that. We are concerned about the delayed time on exam applications. Several of our students have said that their POTs are being lost when being uploaded during the Breeze application and upload process. On average, it's taking them about 8 weeks or more to get a date as a result. What advice can we give them? So POTs that are attached when they are when you're applying on Breeze do not get lost. They're either attached when you submit the application or they're not. So the most important thing to do is when you come to the page where you attach your documents, is that you select the location on your computer where the POT is stored, and then make sure that you select the attach button after you select your document. If you don't select the attach button, then the document will not be attached. Also, when you're applying and you go to the last page where the summary is of your application, you will be able to tell in the attachment portion of that summary whether or not something is attached. If there's nothing attached, it will be blank. And if there's something attached, it will have some sort of a description. So make sure you verify on that summary page whether your attachment actually got attached. Okay. Let's see. What if you use shampoos that is an all natural ingredients? Do you still have to use a license? So if you're shampooing a client's hair in a salon and you're using one with all natural ingredients, it doesn't matter. You still have to have a license in order to be shampooing clients' hair. Doesn't matter what product you're using. How do we disinfect reusable plastic lash lift rods and shields? You do not. Reusable plastic. You would need to look at the manufacturer's instructions, and you have to be able to put them into the EPA registered disinfectant that we were discussing earlier. And if they can't hold up to that disinfection process, then you should be discarding them after use and using a new one for the client. Will there be a Q&A? I'd like to know about when a school can offer the hairstylist license. I'd also like to ask if there will be modernization of apprenticeship requirements, considering the reduction in the required barber Cosmo hours and the exam criteria, as well as the new hairstylist licensure. Okay, so first question, when a school can offer the hairstylist license. So schools can offer the hairstylist license now, as long as they have applied to add that course with the board and BPPE. Once you get a letter from us saying that you're approved to offer that course, the schools can offer that course. I'm not aware of any updates to the apprenticeship requirements. There's another agency, the Department of Apprenticeship Standards, that also oversees apprentices, and there hasn't been any discussion that I'm aware of that those requirements are going to be updated. I would like to see definite answers to the exam. There are too many double answered questions. Okay, I can't speak to that. I've not seen the exam nor the questions. So I can't speak to that.
Well, Carrie, if I could just jump in, the exam is developed by PSI, and it's developed with subject matter experts, and they go through a lot of workshops to develop the exam, which includes test development, question development. So we don't know what's on the exam, but the exam is developed in conjunction with experts in the field.
Okay. If both places ask for original license, what do we do in this situation? So I'm assuming you're asking about the duplicate licenses that we talked about earlier. If you have a duplicate license that we've mailed you, that is an original license. So you're not always going to have your original license. You're going to get a renewed license at some point. And then if you've requested a duplicate license, you would have a duplicate license. But as long as those are the ones that we've sent you, those would be an original license.
Shall I take over?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Is a license required to do threading? No, threading is exempt from the law. We don't have water jets or spa pedicure, only a bowl with a liner we fill with water in the sink. Do we still need a pedicure log? Yes, you do. We require logs for all pedicure bowl cleaning. Am I allowed to work on broken nails or bruised nails? It's going to depend on what that broken nail is. There is a section of our law that I believe says you cannot work on open skin. So you're going to need to be very cautious of what you're working on, and that you could actually cause more harm to that situation. Someone mentioned that they can't hear anything. I hope that's been fixed, because we do understand that people can hear us. A licensed esthetician can perform fibroblast and jet plasma. No, you cannot. That is the practice of medicine. What kind of peels estheticians can perform? What percentage of pH is allowed? Am I allowed to do TCA peels under a doctor's supervision? So that's a loaded question. I'll say the peels we consider a medium grade, I believe. Is that right, Carrie?
Well, they're superficial peels.
Superficial, that's the word I was looking for. So we don't have anything in our law that talks about pH. We don't have anything that talks about the types of peels. It's all just based on the fact that an esthetician is trained to perform superficial peels. Am I allowed to do TCA peels under a doctor's supervision? You're actually not allowed to do anything under a doctor's supervision. It's a wildly known misconception that people think if they're working under a doctor that they can do whatever the doctor tells them, and that is not the case. Medical assistants can do some services under a doctor's direct supervision, and by direct supervision, that means the doctor is supervising at all times, not just on the record of the establishment license. But you cannot work out of your scope for any reason. And sorry, I just got a little distracted. This video will be saved on our website, so you can look for that. Probably in a couple of weeks, we should be able to have that up and posted. Sorry. I would also like to know if there would be any consideration to an all virtual or online option for apprenticeship education or a 1,000-hour barber education. We're happy to take this back. We're always looking for ideas for different town halls, so we will take that into consideration. Can cosmetologists use a straight razor on the face? Shaving is part of the scope of practice of a barber. So barbers should be the ones doing the shaving of the face. Can you please repeat the information regarding a closed school? Sure, I believe Carrie gave OSAR's website, which is the Office of, I just forgot what their name is.
I should have written that down. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Their email is osar@dca.ca.gov. And their
Office of Student Assistance and Relief.
Thank you.
All right. How should shears be stored? Similar to clippers or is it required to be stored elsewhere? So shears have to be stored. If they're clean, they need to be in a closed container labeled clean. And if they're dirty, they need to be in a closed container labeled dirty. We do not recommend you use any leather pouches or any type of fabric pouch for your shears. We know you want to keep them safe, but those things cannot be disinfectant. If you are storing them in material like that, you want to make sure that that material is dirty because they are not clean. Those holsters and different things cannot be disinfectant, so they're always going to be dirty.
I can take over, Christy.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
What is meant by a personal service license? A personal service permit is a permit that allows you to provide limited services outside of a licensed establishment. And they're $25. And if you've been licensed for 2 years or more, you can apply to get a personal service permit. Okay. A lot of schools are confused about this. Do withdrawn students receive a proof of training for hours completed or only completions? Only completions should receive a proof of training document. At the bottom, you attest that the student has completed the courses required for the license. If you have students that are withdrawing, you should give them their transcripts so that the school that they're going to will know what courses they've taken and how many hours they've taken in those courses, so they can make a determination about where they're going to start that student. Can you repeat the 4 required postings for salon and where they can be found on the website? So you need to have the message to the consumer posting, the human trafficking notice, the Department of Industrial Relations required workplace posting notice if you have employees, and then also the prevention of gender-based discrimination. They can be found on our website on the Forms and Publications tab under Establishments and Mobile Units. Do booth renters need a business license or insurance? The board does not require business licenses. You need to check with your local county or city or whoever is issuing business licenses to find out what the laws are in your area. And we don't have regulations regarding insurance except for the personal service permit. As I mentioned earlier, you should reach out to whoever your insurance carrier is or whoever you seek legal advice from to find out if you need that insurance. Where can we find information about testing dates and requirements to become an inspector? You can go to the CalHR website and go to the Finding a Career page and go to the Examinations tab or button, and then search for inspectors, and the information about the exams will be there. They're usually quarterly. The inspector exams are usually reviewed quarterly. So you'll need to check and see what the dates are on CalHR's website. How do you properly disinfect the plastic goggles when we use on a client, like when we look under the mag lamp, etc.? Let me see, I'm sorry, I lost my question. How do you properly disinfect the plastic goggles we use when on the client, like when we are looking under the mag lamp? I'm just confused about whether you're using them or you're putting them on your clients.
I think they're on the clients. If I'm thinking of this correct, it's like the tanning bed goggles. Those are plastic and I don't believe could be disinfected. So unless you're using them for a person, I would probably not use those because they can't be cleaned and you're putting them in someone's eyes. That could be a recipe for transferring pink eye. There's different ways to cover your client's eyes. And I would look into those alternative ways.
And in the chat, the inspector exam and requirements is posted. I have an expired establishment license that is more than 5 years expired. I never received a renewal notice. How do I renew this license? Once a license has been expired for 5 years or more, the license is canceled. And even if it's an establishment license, barber, cosmetologist, whatever license it is, once it's been expired for more than 5 years, it's been canceled. And the only way to get that license again is to apply for a new one. Would you please provide an update on what's happening with the 1,000-hour cosmetology license and the 600-hour haircutting license? Is the board helping facilitate schools offering programs for these certificates? We are still having a difficult time staffing and sure would like to see more people enter our industry. The 1,000-hour cosmetology license has been in effect since January of 2022. And the hairstyling license has been in effect since July 1st of 2023. I would say 95% of schools that have applied for the 1,000-hour cosmetology license, and the majority of those schools are offering those courses now. And we haven't had that much interest in the 600-hour haircutting license courses, but schools have applied for it. And I haven't seen any exams taken for that one yet, but the schools are more than welcome to apply for those courses. I'm not sure what other information I could provide for that. Christy, do you have any?
No, I think you did a good job. You want me to take over now?
Yes, please.
All right. Does a home salon require their own restroom? They don't have to have their own restroom, but you do have to have access to a restroom. What files or documents do I need if I'm only renting a room from a salon? We don't have anything separated out that you would need if you're renting a room from a salon. That salon does have to be licensed. If that salon is not licensed, you could also be issued a citation for that because you must be working in a licensed establishment. So you want to make sure if you're renting a room that the establishment is a licensed business. My stylists do not have set stations and will move from one station to the next. Can their licenses be hung at the front of the salon? They cannot be hung at the front of the salon. They have to be at their primary workstation. So we totally understand that people move around. They just should be posted to the best of the ability where they most commonly work. But we understand that stylists and manicurists are very often moving around. Does our home address on our license have to be facing outwards to be seen by the inspector? No, the inspector does not need to. They might ask for that because they're going to verify that the license is valid, but I don't believe it's posted on the outside of your license, so that would be fine. Am I allowed to work on nails that are yellowish in color? Again, that's going to be a determination from you. There could be lots of reasons why nails might be yellowish to color. What you don't want to do is make those person's nails worse. I personally would not. I would maybe even tell them to see a doctor and not provide that service. You're putting your license at risk if you're providing something that you know someone may have a concern. With a home salon, do I need a separate bathroom or can I? So we just mentioned, we just talked about that. You just have to have access to a restroom. Does our home, I'm sorry, I've got my questions got a little mixed up. Am I allowed? How often does the board meetings? And thank you for these briefings. You are welcome. We hope you guys are getting some good information from these. Our board meets quarterly. Our next board meeting will be in the month of October in the San Diego area. So we do travel throughout California. We go to the LA area and then of course here in the Sacramento area where we're based. but we do meet quarterly. And then we also have committee meetings. We have committee meetings that are happening on September 11th here in Sacramento. And those are always open to the public. What makes dermaplaning different from shaving, and why a barber license is needed for shaving? Not much other than their definition technically. So it is a fine line in the law that doesn't really clarify dermaplaning, but does state that shaving is for the barber. Dermaplaning is considered part of a skincare process. Is a license required to do threading? No, threading is exempt. I signed up for a cosmetology test, but I missed upload for the application for examination. How can I upload again? Not sure what that question is. Maybe you didn't upload your proof of training, but you should be able to go back into your Breeze account if you applied online and provide that information. Can I provide permanent makeup services in the same establishment as aesthetics? Yes, there's no law that says you can't. Again, something that we highly, highly recommend is that you keep all of your tools separate. That just helps it stay clear for everyone. These are my permanent makeup tools. Label them as permanent makeup tools, and keep your esthetician tools labeled separately. Are neck strips, razors, etc., acceptable to be stored in drawers as well if the drawer is labeled clean? As long as that drawer is clean and everything in it is clean, that drawer can be your container. So you don't have to have a container inside of a drawer. The drawer can be considered your container. How do you properly list male versus female services on your menu and still be in compliance? An example is if you may be offering waxing service bundles for men and women, but the individual service within the bundles vary. How should we properly name these on our menus? I don't know that the board can answer that question for you. Carrie, would you know who we referred? Our requirement is just the posting of the information. We don't actually enforce these laws.
I'm pulling it up right now. It's just taking a second. I think it's the Fair Employment and Housing agency that oversees this.
I think it's also the contact is on the notice that you should have posted.
Yeah.
Do I need my own liability insurance if I work for a doctor and am covered under his liability insurance? So we only require liability insurance for a personal service permit. So that would be a question for an insurance company. The board wouldn't be able to answer that. I again want to caution everybody who is working for doctors to stay within their scope of practice. What are the requirements for running a mobile salon, and do I need specific permits or license? So when we're talking about a mobile salon, we're talking about the RVs that have been converted into actual salons on wheels. Yes, there is a mobile unit license for that, and you must be licensed. Has several requirements that are listed on our website. And so it has to be, the requirements have just been updated, so I don't have the requirements off the top of my head, but we do have that information on our website. Do I need my, oh, that's the same question.
I can take over, Christy.
Okay.
Does a home salon need to be inspected? Yes. All establishments should be inspected. So you should be prepared to have an inspector come to your home to do an inspection. Is there a limit on how many times a student can retake the examination? No, there is not a limit. I wish everybody the best of luck when they're taking their exam so that you don't have to take it again. What are the requirements for running a mobile salon? We already just discussed that. Are there any specific permits or licenses? Yes, you need to have a mobile license from us, and you need to check with your local city or county to see if they have any regulations as well. What eligible to be a professional manicurist? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but you would need to go to school at a board approved school and complete a 400-hour course in the manicuring, and then you would need to take and pass the examination in order to become a manicurist. What critical factors contribute to the notable discrepancy between the pass rates of Spanish and English exams, potentially holding the key to fair and equitable pass rates?
I'll jump in, Carrie.
It's okay.
So we've been looking for quite some time at our difference in pass rates. And really, when you look at the overall pass rates, what we're seeing is a lot of people, first of all, the exam is translated to a certain level, grade level, and it is also translated to the most commonly spoken language. And unfortunately, a lot of people want to take the exam in Spanish, but did not receive training in Spanish. We've seen that that's one issue. We do have translation guides that are available that we highly encourage schools to go over with their students and provide those to their students. It will be the translation guide that is used for the exam. And so really it just comes down to, different dialects in the Spanish language and people not being trained properly in the Spanish language, but, or being trained in English, but then taking the exam in Spanish, and not being familiar with the terms that are used in the exam. So there is some helpful information in that translation guide that we recommend schools to use.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Can we use bed foam on top of a spa bed covered by a waterproof sheet? If so, does the waterproof sheet get washed after each client, or does the foam need to be replaced, washed, and disinfect the bed? The law says that treatment tables must be covered with either clean treatment table paper or a clean towel or a clean sheet after each use. After a towel or sheet has been used once, it shall be immediately removed from the treatment table and be deposited in a closed container and not used again until it has been properly laundered or sanitized. Treatment table paper shall be immediately disposed of after single use. So the scenario that was laid out there is not in compliance with the law. So make sure you read 990C regarding treatment tables. How does an esthetician apply for grant funds? That is beyond our jurisdiction. You would need to talk to your school to find out what programs are offered. A licensed esthetician can perform fibroblast or jet plasma. No, we already answered that question. They cannot provide those services. Are barbicide wipes okay for disinfection of surfaces? As long as the product contains a virucidal, fungicidal, and barbicidal, and is EPA disinfected, that is a proper disinfection. Regarding exam application number 8, State Board requires applicant completed at least 10th grade, but the school doesn't require. Does applicant need to upload a proof on Breeze that 10th grade is completed, or is it self-verification? No proof required. It is self-verification. You just need to answer the question on the application, whether or not you have completed 10th grade. You do not need to send any verification. As a barber, how do I become licensed to do waxing? You would need to go to school and complete whatever hours are appropriate to get a esthetician license. So some of the courses you had as a barber may be able to be used towards some of the hours for an esthetician. You would need to work with your school to find out how many hours they would have you take so you could get an esthetician license to provide waxing.
Or it might be easier to become a cosmetologist.
Oh, okay. If the board regulate licensees, what happens if an institution or an employee file a complaint stating that there is someone pretending to be a license withholder. The license has been verified and is valid, but the background shows that it's a different person than the one using it. Oh. On top of that, that person pretend to be an instructor. The board says that it is BPPE issue, but BPE does not regulate license. So what are we supposed to do if none of the entities do anything? Sorry, this is a long one and I keep losing my place. Do anything, since BPPE also says that is the board matter. We can go to the police because in order to do that, an altercation is needed to open a case. Okay. I think you need to file a complaint so we have some specifics so we can figure out what's going on. I don't know what else to say to that. That's a very specific issue. Okay. What is
Shall I take
best-
over?
Sure.
Okay. What is the best platform to practice the exam? We don't really have a platform to practice the exam. You can go onto PSI's website. They may have some information in there. The new study guide for cosmetology is coming in December of 2023. When is it going to be enforced? The new study guide for cosmetology. I'm not sure what you mean by study guide for cosmetology. So that's from a Jamie, if Jamie wants to put in exactly what you meant for, but we don't have any changes coming. Maybe it's a textbook update. So I'm not sure how to answer that one. Where can I find the curriculum for the hairstylist course? Does it include attaching hair extensions? You can go onto our website under our schools tab, and we have all the curriculums listed there. From can a cosmetologist use a straight razor on the face? Yes. Someone's trying to catch me in a tricky question there. There's no requirement that says a straight razor by a cosmetologist cannot be used. Is there any proper paperwork I would need to file if I wanted to do manicure services at a flea market? Is that against state board? You have to provide services at a licensed establishment. And if you had the personal service permit, that is for you to go to a location to provide services, but it's not intended for you to go to a place where you can set up a business. Okay, so if you're going to a flea market on a regular basis, doing manicures, you would need to have a establishment license. Are you aware that the Milady Vietnamese manicurist workbook is not a workbook? It's actually a Vietnamese manicurist test book. I am not aware of that. We do not approve the textbooks. When reviewing a cosmetology license using a Visa or MasterCard online, is there a surcharge or convenience fee to do so? I don't believe there is. Is that correct, Carrie?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. So no, there's no charge for that. Can you explain once more how I can upload your missing documents? So you can go into your Breeze account. Carrie, can you answer that one?
I don't know that you can go back into your Breeze account once your application's been submitted. So if you haven't submitted your POT, then you'll need to send that document to us via email to our POT email address, which is, I just saw it, BBC POTs at dca.ca.gov.
All right, regarding exam application on Breeze, state, I think we might have answered the state board requires a 10th grade education. We do not ask that you provide proof of a 10th grade education. That is a self-verification. So you are going to need to sign under penalty of perjury that the 10th grade has been completed. Can estheticians do eyelash perm, eyebrow tint, eyebrow lamination? Yes, they can. Please refer to our website on eyebrow tinting. At this time, there is only a couple of products that are allowed to be used. Will the laws update to have an advanced aesthetics license to perform advanced treatments, similar to what Nevada passed last year? I personally would love that. There wasn't some efforts to do an advanced aesthetics license a few years back, and it did not happen. It would take a bill going to the legislature to have that done. It's a law change. I am not aware of that being in process at this time. Is microchanneling allowed? And then I want to just say the next question is about microchanneling, like ProCell. Licensed estheticians can do that. I think you have to be very careful with what manufacturers are calling microchanneling. We have seen people refer to microchanneling, and it is something that is actually piercing the skin. So you have to look at what our law states, and I'm just going to quote it for you right now. And it says, no licensee or student may use a product, device, machine, or other technique or combination of the same, which results in the removal, destruction, incision, or piercing of a client's skin beyond the epidermis. Any such act shall be considered an invasive procedure. An invasive procedure may be, but is not limited to, an application of electricity that visibly contracts the muscle. So we're talking about any type of body slimming at that point is going to contract the muscle. Application of topical lotions, creams, serums, or other substances that require a medical license to purchase. So you cannot have products in your establishment that are obtained by a prescription. And penetration of the skin by metal needles, except for electrolysis needles or wire filaments.
You want me to take over?
No, I'm good. Did you say that estheticians can't do TCA pills? We don't have anything in our law that specifically talks about TCA pills. You should refer to the section on skin exfoliation, which is section 992 of the regulations. And you want to make sure that you stay within those guidelines. If the owner of beauty, they're the owner of a beauty suite, can I, as the owner, hold the establishment license for everyone? You can. We don't recommend it. We recommend that if it's a suite style setup, that each suite has its own establishment license. Keeping in mind that the salon owner, the holder of the establishment license, is responsible for all health and safety that takes place within their establishment. So we recommend in those suites that everybody is licensed individually as an establishment. We already answered that. Chemical pills, 30% or less. I'll be honest, at some point, somewhere, someone said 30%. I think it was probably 50 years ago that someone came up with this term that our licensees can only do chemical pills up to 30%. There is nothing in the law that says 30%. So you have to really look at that section 992, making sure that you are staying in compliance with that. I'm going to skip the dermaplaning. Let's see, we have answered the dermaplaning and shaving. Yes, they are very similar. One is considered more skincare and one is considered hair removal. Can estheticians perform any body sculpting or lymphatic drainage services? The answer is no. Can estes do cool sculpting? The answer is no. What's the difference between, we really got that dermaplaning and shaving one. Any info regarding the BioRepeel? I don't know what that is. So it sounds like it's a peel. Again, I would refer you to section 992 and making sure you're in compliance with that. What underlying factors are responsible for the striking disparity in certification exam pass rates between traditional 5-day-week schools and the sponsored apprenticeship programs? And how can we bridge this divide to ensure equal opportunities for all learners? That's a great question. We are seeing that the apprentice program is having very low pass rates. It is something that our board is looking into. We are working with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. And that's one of the reasons why the apprenticeship program will not likely be reducing its number of hours that is required, because as it is, it's a 3,200 hour program and they have around a 25 to 30% pass rate. So it is definitely something we are working on to try to make sure that those apprentices are not only getting that on the job training, but that they're also getting the actual theory education that they need in order to pass that exam. If a school is approved to offer the 1,000-hour cosmetology program, a student who transfers in with the 1,300 hours from another school, do they graduate automatically with the new school? If so, in the POT, do we put all the hours they originally have in the POT or just 1,000 hours? So that's really going to be up to the school. So that's why you need that transcript. So if you're enrolling them and accepting hours from another school, you're enrolling them into your program that's been approved. So you need to look at your own curriculum that has been approved, and you need to look at the hours on their transcript and plug that in to where it fits. Someone who has 1,300 hours could only have 600 hours with your school. So that's really going to be between the school and the student on what they've actually completed. And that's why those transcripts are so important. If one of the city doesn't allow to give a license for cosmetology at home, but cosmetology and barbering give license to work from home, what to do in this situation? That is a great question. There are lots of cities and counties that do not allow this type of service from a home. So we don't check that. But I highly recommend you to check that, because the cities and counties have a different type of authority than what we do. So if you're considering opening a salon in your home, you really want to make sure that your city or county is going to allow that, because you could get into some trouble in that area. What limited services can be done outside of a licensed establishment? It's different for every different license type. One of the main things in cosmetology is to remember that it is there's no chemical services. And that is really going back to the previous question. That is because a lot of cities and counties do not allow chemical services to be done in residential areas. So it has to be zoned for that. So that is one of the reasons why those services were limited. There's for estheticians, you're looking at a basic facial that can be done outside of an establishment. Did all education for the above named applicant occur at the school listed above? Yes or no? Oh, I think someone's posting what is listed on our POT. If no, please complete section G. So yes, there's a back section of that proof of training that needs to be completed. If you have a student, that's transferring in. Can you give info regarding BioRePill that we mentioned? You want to make sure you're following within 992. I haven't personally heard of this pill, but I can tell you I'll be looking it up after this meeting and see what we have going on there. Carrie, would you mind taking over?
Hello, I uploaded applications. Can you explain one more time how I can upload? Thank you. So when you're on Breeze and you are applying for a license that you need to attach a proof of training document for, or an establishment application where you need to attach some documents, you want to make sure that you choose the item that you want to attach from your computer, and then see that it has been linked there, and then hit the attach button before you continue. If you don't hit the attach button after you select your document, it will not attach to your application. You get an application summary when you are checking out on Breeze, and there is a section that shows attachments, and if you have an attachment, it will show the title of your attachment. If you don't have an attachment, your summary under attachment will be blank. So that's how you can verify whether or not you were successful attaching your document. Is there a limit to the number of schools you can use to obtain a crossover license? No, there's not a limit. I don't know why you would want to be bouncing around to schools, but there's not a limit. Can a salon have hydration services? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
If you're referring to IV hydration, then you're crossing into the medical field and you need to contact the medical board of California.
Where does the establishment license message to consumer, human trafficking, gender-based discrimination notice need to be posted? Can some of these be in the back of the salon within the required labor posters? The Division of Industrial Relation notices can be posted where the rest of the labor notices are posted. The message to the consumer must be posted in your reception area for all consumers to see, along with your establishment license. The gender-based discrimination and the human trafficking notice, I can't recall exactly where those are supposed to be posted. Those are postings that are required by other entities, and the notice should show where those need to be posted. Why does a personal service permit require fingerprinting, but regular licenses do not? Personal service permit allows you to provide services in someone's home, and that is why fingerprinting is required. If I have a cosmetology license, can I work as a full-time barber? Do I need to get a separate license? Thank you. You can't be a full-time barber if you're a cosmetologist. Only barbers can advertise themselves as barbers. So you can't advertise yourself as a barber. You would need to get a separate license to be able to say, I'm a barber. I have trash cans under my shampoo bowls, so they need to have lids and be labeled as trash. They do not need to be labeled as trash. If they are, if you're using those trash cans for hair, then they must have a lid. How would a shop owner access the state's database to reach out directly to licensed barbers and cosmetologists? You can file you can file a public records request to get that information. There is a what's that, Christy? DCA
Public sales?
I'm sorry.
Can they do public sales?
Yes. That's on DCA's webpage.
Okay.
For public sales.
Yeah, public information licensee lists overview. You can find that on the Department of Consumer Affairs website at www.dca.gov. Carrie, want me to take over?
I'm sure.
Okay. This is what is listed at the bottom of the pre-OT. Not that the course has been completed. Well, yes, we are working on updating the proof of training document so that it's very clear on when the student has actually graduated from the program. Excuse me. If the owner of beauty, as the owner of beauty sites, we answered that question already. I believe these are the rubber ones to protect. Oh, I'm reading the goggles. The rubber ones to protect the eyes from the magnifier lamp. They go in the EPA solution. If they can go in the EPA solution and withstand it, you're fine to continue to do that. Sometimes the EPA solution will break it down and ruin them, but if they can uphold it, that is totally fine. You just want to make sure that you're doing that because, again, those little goggles can definitely transfer bacteria. Since estheticians and barbers are allowed to dermaplane, why then cosmetologists are not allowed to use a straight blade razor on the face? So just to be clear, cosmetologists can use a razor. We're not going to say that cosmetologists can shave because that is clearly stated in the barber scope of practice. However, Cosmetologists can also dermaplane. What can't plastic be sanitized? Some of our hairbrushes are plastic. It just depends. So, you know, if plastic is if you're gonna immerse your plastic in a EPA registered disinfectant and it withstands that, you're totally fine. I'm taking an exam and my apprentice license has one letter different from my driver's license. How can I get it verified or changed so I can take the exam? You should contact us directly and we can get that fixed for you. And you can send us an email on that. I will tell you that our emails are running a little slow. We do have a direct, do we have an apprentice email? You might want to talk to your sponsor for your apprentice license. They might be able to get in touch with us quicker. How is the industry adopting distance learning when obtaining a barber and cosmetology license? So our board doesn't actually have any oversight over distance learning. We approve the curriculum. If it's an accredited school, then it has to be approved by the your accrediting agency and also through the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary. Is there a 600-hour examination actually prepared? Yes, the hairstylist license is up and ready to go. So we have the exam is out there and ready to be taken. What critical factors contribute to the notable discrepancy? Oh, we talked about that already. Can I still get my license after I graduate from cosmetology school? I still owe fines, or do I have them all paid off before I graduate? So if you owe fines, that must mean you were performing services before you got out of school, which is naughty. Carrie, do you know if they can get licensed before their fines are paid?
Yes, they can take the exam before their fines are paid.
Okay, but it will attach to your license, so you won't be able to renew it. We offer payment plans, so you can certainly reach out to us for that if you need assistance in that area. For the hairstylist testing, there is no guidelines in the bulletin stating the subjects that will be test based on. There is a candidate information bulletin. Is that right, Alex and Carrie?
I'll have to check specifically for hairstyling.
We'll have to double check that, but there should be a candidate information bulletin posted for hairstyling. Do solo salons need a separate establishment for each room? That is what we recommend. Otherwise, there's an establishment for all the rooms, but they are individual businesses. So we do recommend every solo salon have a separate establishment license. Sorry that someone's mic was giving off a muffled sound. We did hear we had some technical issues. We hopefully have cleared that up. Can you have a home salon in a shed in the backyard? You can. It just has to meet code. You should again check with your city and county to make sure that you can operate a business in that manner. It would be, you would need the establishment license and it would need to meet all the requirements of any other establishment. Can barbers do waxing? No, they cannot. Waxing is in the scope of estheticians or cosmetology. I travel back and forth from California to other states. Do I need to be licensed to work in a salon in that state? Every state is different, so it depends on what state you're going to, but almost, I believe every state requires their own license to be issued. So if you're licensed here and you go somewhere else, you need to check with that state to see what their requirements are. Do you have to have an establishment license, even if the establishment like a Sola or Phoenix has their own? Again, we highly recommend that you are your own business, you have your own establishment license. Can you send a link where on the website the 600-hour hairstylist examination is addressed? I think we're looking at that right now. Can I perform permanent makeup services? We answered that question. Can estheticians perform body sculpting? We answered that. The answer is no. Looks like a lot of our questions are repeating, so sorry about that. Okay, this one has 2 questions. How is the industry adopting distance learning? We talked about that. How would a shop owner, we talked about that. I apologize. If subleasing a unit, does my sublease need their own establishment license? It depends on if there's already establishment license there. So if there's an establishment and you're subleasing a room, if you're an esthetician, say you're subleasing the room, there's only one mailing address for that business. So there's only one establishment license that can be issued. As opposed to a solo salon, they all have different mailing addresses. So if you're subleasing a room in an establishment that does not have its own mailing address with the United States Post Office, then you do not need a separate establishment license. And that owner who owns the salon is responsible for what happens in that establishment. There are people working without a board license. When inspected by an inspector, they just run away without leaving any identification. If they run away, there's no consequences for them. What can state board do to prevent people from working without a license? These unlicensed people are driving down the standard of our industry. Totally agree with this. We are, we do hold, if you're an establishment owner and your employees run out or your booth renters run out, you are going to be held accountable. You are facing losing your license. And we do try to identify those people. We work with our division of investigation in trying to identify these people. If you have any experience with this and you can identify these people, we recommend that you file a complaint with us. But we are aware of the situation and we're working to try to solve this. Can a person with an expired or canceled license re-enroll to school and obtain a different license? Example, an expired canceled license in cosmetology now wants to be a barber. Will this person be able to transfer the cosmetology hours? Yes, your hours from school never expire. So as long as you have your information, those hours can be transferred. It doesn't matter if your license was expired or not. Can a salon add a hydration service business? Again, that's a medical issue. And so we are telling you to contact the medical board. It is not within your scope of practice. Is it a fine for our cords from our clippers and blow dryer are hanging? No, there's nothing specific about the cords. Do I need to take down my esthetician license and put up my microblading license when performing services? There's nothing that says you have to do that. However, we recommend that you do that. When and where do you have a board meeting in Los Angeles? We do not have one scheduled at this time. It will be in 2024. We post all of our board meetings on our website under board information, so you can watch for that. Under establishment license to enroll in the apprenticeship program, can one or two barbers apply for a license? I'm not sure I understand that question. You can have an apprenticeship, you can have an apprentice working with a barber in your establishment. When you're talking about the apprenticeship program, we highly recommend you contact your local apprenticeship program sponsor for those questions. I took the test for esthetician more than 5 years ago and didn't pass. Am I able to take the test again? Yes, you are. You would just need to reapply. Can barbers do dermaplaning? Barbers can shave. What are the fines for a non-licensed, newly graduated student doing home visits, services until they test or delay testing? There's a lot of wrong in that question. Not only are you unlicensed, but you're also doing it at home. That's $1,000 fine. Can an esthetician practice trichology? If I understand, trichology is for scalps. It is not within the scope of an esthetician. If you are a licensed cosmetologist, you are a licensed cosmetologist, do you have to have an esthetician license to perform facials? Some establishments do not allow to purchase products unless you have an esthetician. Why? No, a cosmetologist is the master license in a sense that it covers hair, skin, and nails. We don't have any type of regulation over the purchasing of products or who allows that. But you should be able to do all of that with your cosmetology license. How is one qualified to be an instructor? We do not license instructors. The Bureau of Private Post-Secondary does have some requirements for education or experience. to be an instructor, but in California, there is not a license for an instructor. How much is the fee to take the esthetician exam? I don't know that answer.
I believe it's $115.
Okay.
I
So that's
believe.
the full fee, $115. So are you not able to quat or disinfect anything plastic like the goggles previously discussed? I do not believe that plastic can be disinfected. It's going to, if you're soaking it for the entire amount of contact time that is needed, which is a minimum of 10 minutes, then it is eventually going to break down from that. So you want to make sure you're just looking at your manufacturer's instructions and looking at the instructions on your tools that you receive on how to disinfect properly. How many questions does a cosmetology exam test bank have? We don't know that answer. They have a very large test bank. That exam is maintained by PSI. They develop it, then they administer it. So we do not have the answer to the actual test bank. Is it possible to reinstate the pre-application for those to take the exam upon completion of school? The pre-application process was when we had the practical exam. So there wouldn't be a benefit since everyone tests the exact same way at this point. All applications are processed in the order that they are received. It is most important that those applications come in complete. We have a very high number of applications that are deficient, missing signatures, missing the answers to the criminal conviction questions. You're going to get a deficiency letter, and that's going to put you back at the back of the line again. So really make sure that those applications are completed fully. Cosmetology and barbering and other exams are just written correct. Yes, that's correct. The legislature did away with the practical exam for us. So our exams are only written. Can a barber dermaplane? A barber can shave. What would I need for students to come and do an externship hours at my establishment? You should contact your local school. The externship program is an agreement between schools and the establishment. So that is between the school and you. Following up on the gender services, are you saying we just can't name them male and female in the posted online menus? Again, we recommend you look at that gender pricing form and contact the appropriate agency that can answer those questions. We cannot answer those questions. Do I need a Cosmo license to use hot tools and style hair only? Yes, you do. You can also be a hairstylist license. You can use hot tools and style hair only as a hairstylist. Where do we get the translation guides? Those are on the link on our website under exam information and also on the PSI website. If the salon suites have an establishment license, do I need my own? No, you do not. If they have it, we highly recommend they do not have that. Will the board reinstate the practical exam? The legislature took the practical exam away. I don't see them granting it back. If the board regulates licensees, what happens if an institution or an employee files a complaint stating that there is someone, okay, I think we answered that one already. That's a duplicate. And we're getting a lot of duplicates in here. For someone who already has a nail and esthetician license, how many hours are required for a cosmetology license and how many hours for a barber? I believe it's around 600 hours. You can look at the curriculum. Does anyone know that on the call from staff? I believe it's around 600 hours. Can a school without a board or bureau approval be able to provide certificates in makeup? You can provide certificates in makeup if you're charging for that program more than $2,400. You have to be licensed as an institution by the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary. And the only reason why you would provide this is if someone was going into theater or Hollywood or like a studio, working in film, because to provide makeup to a consumer, you have to have a license. You have to be an esthetician or a cosmetologist. The reason why there's makeup schools out there is because they're providing makeup skills for people to work in the industry of but in film. So that would be different. But if you're providing makeup services, you need to be honest with your students that if they provide that service to a customer for a fee, so if someone goes and gets their bridal makeup done, that is a regulated practice by us, and you need to be a cosmetologist or an esthetician. Do you need a oh, we answered that one. If a cosmetologist license has been expired for over 10 years and cannot find the proof of training from a previous closed school, does the stylist have to repeat the hours? We should still have you in our system if you were licensed. So all you would need to do is reapply to take the exam again. What is the requirement for a home-based salon? I think we've covered that. You have to have an extra, a separate entrance, and you have to have access to a restroom. Will there be any criteria listed for crossover from Cosmo to hairstylist in order to obtain more training in cutting? So we don't have a law that talks about crossover anymore. What the law says is that any type of education that is the same in one area in another area can be transferred. So if you're a barber and you want to become a cosmetologist, everything you learned as a barber that is the exact same in the cosmetology can be transferred. So there is no crossover course. Now schools offer crossover courses because that's what they call them, but that's now an industry term. There's nothing in our laws and regs that says crossover. So basically a cosmetologist would have to learn the shaving portion, which is 200 hours. A barber would have to learn the skin and nails portion. And so you look at everything that's like can be transferred. Can I still get my license after I graduate from, oh, that's the same question. We apologize. For some reason, the chat is duplicating most of the questions. What are the regulations for reusable wax pads? I don't believe our regulations have that specific. That is something that we're looking into adding into our regulations because we know that that's a growing trend that people are using reusable wax pads. So we just want to make sure that you are keeping them clean. If they can be disinfected after each use, you want to disinfect them. Do you need to have a license to do hair extensions? Yes. If you're selling the extensions and that's all you're doing is demonstrating the sale, then no. But if you're putting hair extensions into a consumer, you're charging for that service, you're then styling those hair extensions, then yes, you need to be a licensed cosmetologist. After my cosmetology license, how many hours would I need to get my barbering license? It's 200 hours in shaving. Do you guys have any listings, rules of how to have the makeup section for when they come in and inspect? I don't think there's anything specific. What it says is that cosmetics must be covered and kept clean. You want to make sure that you're not using any of the applicators more than once. So the main shakers can, if you have powder that you're shaking, that is okay. All liquids, creams, waxes, shampoos, gels, and other cosmetic preparations shall be kept in a clean, closed container, and powders can be kept in a clean shaker if you so choose. So the main thing is to keep them clean and keep them covered. I lost my place. Sorry about that. And what license do I need to provide ultrasonic cavitation? That is the practice of medicine. We recommend you do not do it. It really falls into the medical field. Do you need to have a Cosmo license to use that's another duplicate. I applied for the exam. If I don't get a letter after 8 weeks, we're processing exam apps at about 6 weeks, I believe. So you should have had your letter by now. You might want to check You can check the PSI website and determine if you're in there. Maybe you didn't receive the letter. We do send out 2 different forms. PSI sends you a form and we send a letter. And if you're at 8 weeks, we're either just getting ready to maybe process it, or you might already be in the PSI system. You can check that as well. Will the board approve an establishment license to a building that does not have an ADA entrance because the building is, we don't approve based on ADA requirements. Nothing in our law has ADA laws. What would I need for students to come to do an oh, we answered that. I'm sorry. Carrie, would you mind taking over?
No problem. If you are a licensed cosmetologist, do you have to have an esthetician license to provide facials? No, cosmetologists can provide facials. It's in there within their scope of practice. Some establishments do allow products. I don't know why they wouldn't allow you to do purchase products, but it is within the scope of practice of a cosmetologist. Can I use an LED as an esthetician? Yes, you can. Let's see. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. I missed your answer on estheticians receiving grants or funding. You need to talk to your school to find out what is offered. We filed a complaint, but the board told me to go to BPPE. Okay, you'll need to file another complaint. Can an esthetician do microneedling? No. If I'm subleasing in my studio to someone who will sublease need their own establishment license? No, you're the lessor, so you should have the establishment license. Did you address if there was an anatomy question on the exam? Or is it just structures and disorders? You'll need to look at the PSI handbook. It lays out your candidate information bulletin, will lay out what subjects the questions are on and what percentage of the questions for the exam are covered under that section. Does esthetician state board exam change from August 23? Then what is the difference? The esthetician exam has not changed. I was renting a studio that didn't have a proper flooring. The board does not have any rules or regulations regarding what the flooring needs to be. You should check with your local county or city to find out what their ordinances are. The current cosmetology theory exam portion is going to be updated in December of 2023 with the current Milady Cosmetology 14th edition textbook. But when is it going to be enforced? We don't have any updates as to when the exam is going to be changing or when it's going to be based on a new edition of the textbooks. PSI, that's PSI's purview. Can you clarify that Cosmo can use a straight razor on the face? Cosmetologists can dermaplane. Let's see. As a cosmetology student, can I be an assistant to a hairstylist? Only if you are in the extern program. Can you please provide the phone number for Breeze support as a newly graduated student who are having issues with their account can call? The phone number is 855-227-9633 for Breeze support. Can I review your Q&A after your list after discussion? This will be posted, yes.
The Q&A list will not be posted. It's live. We can't even actually save it. So
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the slides before. Thank you, Christy. What would I need for students to come to do externship? We already talked about that.
Okay, Carrie, if you don't mind, we could pause at this point.
Yes.
We
Mhm.
do have some callers that have wanted to speak. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to our moderator, and we'll open it up for people who want to ask questions via the phone or internet.
All right, wonderful. For those who wish to speak, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 in order to raise a hand. And it looks like our first question comes from HairLab24. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Question that I had was already answered.
All right, wonderful. We're going to put your hand down
Thank
and
you.
go on to the next person. Next, we have Ja. Hold on. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
To perform esthetician services in a barbering establishment. I have both barbering and cosmetology.
So I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to know if in a barbershop establishment, if I can perform facials. I have cosmetology license and a barbering license.
Yes, that's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to put your hand down. And next we have Carlos followed by JP. Hold on just a moment, Carlos. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, Carlos, we're going to try you once more. All right, we're going to pass Carlos. JP, you're up next. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone, JP.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
My question is I'm a licensed cosmetologist. Am I able to do cosmetology? Excuse me. Am I able to do hairstyling and barbering?
As a licensed cosmetologist, you cannot do any barbering services, and you can't call yourself a barber. So you can do estheticians, skincare, and you can do nail care. You just want to make sure that you're not calling yourself a barber.
Okay, so I would have to go back to school and get a barbering license.
You would have to go back for 200 hours to get a barber license.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, next we're going to hear from Abigail and then Erica. Hold on, Abigail. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
You hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so as a licensed cosmetologist, is it within my scope of practice to go to a client's home if they have medical conditions that prevent them from coming to the salon? For example, I work with very elderly clients and they cannot get to the salon easily. And can I do that without a personal service permit? Prior to the PSP existence, I thought it was something I was allowed to do. Am I not allowed to go to them anymore since I don't have a PSP right now?
That is an exception, and that's a great question. So yes, there's that law still exists. If there's a person that is unable to get to a salon, you are still able to go provide those services.
And do I still have that limitation of the PSP permit? Like I cannot do color services, I cannot bring electrical equipment?
For that exemption, there is no limitation.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
All right, next we're going to hear from Erica. Hold on just a moment. Erica, followed by Dee Dee. Erica, you're up.
Morning. I'm still a student. I have a question. So once I complete my hours and my testing at school, how long can I take to go do my testing with California?
As soon as you get your proof of training from the school, you can apply for that exam.
And what's the length? Like per se, if I start work and because either way, it's a waiting list, right? So
Processing, it takes, with the volume of work we have right now, the processing times are running about 6 to 7 weeks.
oh, understood. So, but well, what is the length though?
The length for,
Or there's no date. I just complete my schooling and then whenever I'm ready, I just go and I pay for my fee and I just wait for my appointment and then I just go do my testing.
yes, so you'll receive information from us when we've approved your application, and you actually will go onto the PSI website and schedule your own exam. So you'll get to pick the location and the time and the date.
Oh, sweet. Okay, that's one question. I appreciate that. My second question is where can I have approved electric filing safety course class to have as an add-on approved from you guys, California Board of Barbering and Cosmetology resource? Do you guys have like a list that you guys already approved of, or does it even exist?
It does not exist. We only approve schools and courses for the requirement for licensure.
For licensure. So, because I already spoke to my counselor, she's actually doing some research herself because it was actually the first question nobody has ever asked her. So that's why I wanted to ask you guys. I've been waiting for this day to ask you guys. So there's no way that maybe next time you guys probably have an answer for me?
Well, it's not something that we do. We only approve for the course that you have to take to qualify for the exam. Anything in addition to that, we don't have oversight over.
Understood. I appreciate it though. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you, Erica. Next, we're going to hear from Dee Dee, followed by Yasmin. Hold on just a moment, Dee Dee.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
So I had a question about, so cosmetologists only need 200 hours to become a barber. If, as a shop owner that hires cosmetologists as well, I'm dually licensed as a barber and a cosmetologist, and I own a barber shop. If a cosmetologist wanted to learn barbering and not go to a school, how would they go about doing that 200 hours under, would it be under an apprenticeship program? Or would it be like, how would they do that?
They would have to go to an approved school. You would have to go and be a part of an approved barbering program.
So does that fall under a barber apprentice? Like if they wanted to do, if they would just have to do the full 2 years for the barber apprentice?
Well, you could become a barber apprentice, or you could go and then, but then you're not able to take the exam for 2 years,
I
or
know
you could go do
you
the
can legally
200
do it,
hours.
But you'll be able to legally do shaves in the shop while making money.
Right.
Okay. So they would have to do either a school for the 200 to 400 hours, because the schools usually require 400 hours. Or they would have to do the full 2-year barber apprenticeship.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, looks like we lost Yasmin. We're gonna hear from JP, followed by Jamie. Hold on, JP, you're up next. All right, JP, we're gonna send you a second request to unmute your microphone.
Good morning. I believe you already got to me and you guys answered my question. Now let's just another JP. Thank
Nope.
you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Next we have Jamie. Hold on just a moment, followed by Becky. Jamie, you're up next.
Hello?
Hi, go ahead, please.
Okay, so if a school accepts a transfer hour, a student who transfers with 1,300 hours, and the school is approved for the 1,000 hour program, and we check, everything, their transfer script, that they meet the 1,000 hour criteria, is there an additional form we must fill out, or is it we just look at it and we say it's approved and then we give them their POT?
Well, you need to enroll them. You can't just say that a student completed 1,000 hours without being enrolled in your school. They would have to be enrolled in your school.
Okay.
So if you're going to enroll a student and then grant them all the hours they need for a proof of training, keep in mind also that student is now going to fall under your school. So their pass and fail is going to fall under your school. You're taking responsibility that student has been trained in those hours.
Okay.
There's
And
no additional forms, but they do have to complete a course.
can you expand on the course?
So they have to complete if I go get 2,000 hours, that doesn't mean I graduated from a program. They have to graduate from a program to qualify for the exam. So you granting someone, if somebody's coming to you with 1,300 hours and you're just enrolling them and turning them, out with a POT, that would probably be a concern not only for us, but I would venture with the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary, because you need to make sure that you are enrolling a student and you are graduating a student. It's not just about meeting the minimum hours that's required by the board.
Of course. I just want to know if there's an additional form and checking the transcript, making sure they are meeting everything.
There's no additional form.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next we're going to hear from Becky. And as a quick reminder to everyone, if you want to get in line, please raise a hand. Dial-in users need to dial *3 in order to raise a hand. Becky is next, followed by Ja.
There is.
Apprentices work in a salon doing receptionist tasks when their mentor is on a break, as long as they're not servicing customers.
We seem to be having some technical issues, but I think what you asked is, can a receptionist work in a salon as long as they're not providing services? And yes, that would be fine. Anybody can work in a salon and clean and be a receptionist. They just can't provide services.
No, my question was actually, sorry if we have a bad connection, but if an apprentice can work if their mentor is on break.
That's an important differentiation of your question. I'm sorry, I missed the word apprentice. So if the apprentice just cannot be providing any services when their supervisor is out. So yes, they can continue to work there. They can clean up. They can do the receptionist. They just shouldn't be providing any services without supervision.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next we're going to hear from Ja, followed by Lauren.
Hi, I have questions. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I wanted to know, I am a licensed cosmetologist. I wanted to know if I can also title myself as esthetician. Some employers sometimes don't want to hire me being that I'm cosmetology.
You cannot. If you are a licensed cosmetologist, you are a licensed cosmetologist.
Okay. And next question is having a treatment room inside of an established barbershop, do we have to have an additional establishment for that treatment room where it's just exclusively waxing and facials?
No, it would be under that same license.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next we're going to hear from Lauren, followed by Nikita. Hold on, Lauren. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Yes, hello. I have a question regarding aesthetics. If I'm a licensed cosmetologist, what are the steps I need to take to get an aesthetics license?
You don't need an esthetician's license in order to provide services that an esthetician provides. You already can provide all those services with your cosmetology license.
Right. So I work at a school, and what if our school, like our accrediting agency, is requesting whoever teaches aesthetics needs to have an aesthetics license? What would I need to do that?
Then you would need to look at the curriculum for the aesthetics course and see what hours were not covered in your cosmetology course and take those hours. And then the school can issue a POT for the esthetician license.
Okay, and then go to and take my test just as I have done in the past.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Nikita's up next, and just a note, we are closing at 12, so we're going to fit as many people as we can into the next 9 minutes or so.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. I was just wondering, how would a salon owner get an apprenticeship program started in the salon?
So on our website, there's information, there's an apprentice button, and it will have all kinds of information about the apprentice program. And you would need to contact an apprentice sponsor. They would have the list of apprentices that they have in their program, and then they would be able to set you up with some individuals who would like to apprentice in your shop. But you need to go to our website and click on the apprentice link, and it will have all kinds of information for you there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Michelle, I've sent you a request to unmute your microphone. I'm going to try and get the microphones unmuted while the last person is finishing up. Michelle, we're sending you a second request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I work at a SOLA. I have a studio at SOLA, and I have an establishment license that's good until 2025. But I just moved next door to another studio within the same building. Do I have to get a whole new established license? I do. Okay, so I can't just change the studio number.
Once you change your studio number, your suite number, you need to apply for a new establishment license. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And then I have one follow-up question to that is I checked on Breeze to try and figure this out first. And I noticed that my establishment license, it says it's good until 2025, but it says the status is closed. Does that mean it's already canceled on
Yes.
account? Okay, it's because someone else applied for it probably. Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering that.
You're welcome.
All right, Yasmin, I've sent you a request to unmute your microphone. I see you're on a mobile device. You may need to go back to the main screen in order to hit that unmute me button. All right, Yasmin, we're going to move along. Rosalie, you're next. Rosalie, I've sent you a request to unmute your microphone.
Audrey, how can I get my cosmetologist license? I have my barber license. but I don't wanna go and study a lot again.
So you have a barber license and you want to get your cosmetology license? Is that the
Uh-huh.
question? So
Yeah.
you would need to go to school and take the courses that you did not take when you got your barber license. And then they will give you a proof of training and you can apply to take the exam, the cosmetology exam.
Oh, okay. Okay. Another question is if someone has a cosmetologist license, they can open a barber and salon?
A cosmetologist can open a barbering salon, but they should have barbers working there.
It's not?
Then they shouldn't be advertising as a barber shop if they don't have any barbers working there.
Okay. If someone is in probation because they made a lot of mistakes and they are in probation, state board can inspect weekends?
I'm sorry. So you said if somebody's on probation, can they be inspected
Yeah.
on the weekends? Was that the question?
Yeah, because okay, because that person is in probation because v- she had a people working without license, and now she's in probation. The establishment license is in probation, and her license too, but she still has people without license working there.
So, yes, the inspectors will go out on weekends and after 5. And if you would like, you can file a complaint. You can go to that www.breeze.ca.gov and you can file a complaint. You can remain anonymous, so we don't have any of your personal information, but you can file a complaint against that establishment and then we can follow up and send an inspector out.
Oh, okay. And how many hours do I have to study for get my license, my cosmetologist license?
From a barber,
300.
300.
Oh, okay.
Thank you,
All
Christy.
right. You can provide a school. Can I get that service? Do you know a school?
Do I know a school? You would
Uh-huh.
need to go to our website and look at our approved school list, and then you could contact the schools on the list in your area to see if they will let you take these hours to get your cosmetology license.
Oh, okay. Another question is, cosmetologists can use the razor
They can use a
or
razor
sheet?
to dermaplane.
Oh, okay. 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 Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we're going to have to unfortunately cut it off at that point. I know we had a lot of people we did not get to, and we also had a lot of questions that we weren't able to answer. We will be we will be copying those and putting together another town hall where we'll start off with those questions again. We apologize for not being able to get to everyone's questions today, but hopefully this has been helpful for what we have been able to do. And you can continue to put in your questions up till about 12:10. We'll keep the chat open and then we'll be sending you out a notice. We'll let you know when we have this posted online. And we will also let you know when we will be scheduling another town hall. Also, watch our Facebook and Instagram pages, as we will often put some of these questions up there as well to try to get this information out to you all. So I really want to thank you all for joining us today. Again, I apologize we didn't get to everyone, but we will eventually. So please stay tuned and continue to send your questions in. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.